start with you. If you're guilty, I forgive you.
Sue took a different path than I did. She's gone down the forgiveness road entirely, completely, and is wanting to get clemency for Robert Knighton.
Me, I'm happy. He took my mother's life while she was drinking a cup of coffee. Is that a way to die? I don't think so.
I don't care how they cut it. I don't care how you do it. Or perhaps do it like they do in some of the Asian countries. Give the parents the gun and let them shoot them.
We have an obligation to identify them, find them, and kill them.
I could participate in an execution. I could serve as the executioner if I had to. Yes, I believe I could. And in some cases, quite frankly, it wouldn't disturb me one bit.
Well-intentioned people would pat me on the back or put their arm around me and say, "Hey, Don, look, everybody knows you didn't want to do this. The inmate knew you didn't want to do this, but you were just doing your job." Well, my response one morning to that was, you know, it's interesting. While everybody was asleep last night at midnight, I killed somebody for them, and then I'm supposed to be back on the job this morning like nothing ever happened. Nothing out of the ordinary happened here last night, when in fact the very unordinary happened. The notion that executions are not extraordinary and don't impact you is just absurd. Following Johnson's execution, I went home and climbed in the shower at 3 o'clock in the morning and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed trying to feel clean, and never quite made it.
The death penalty is frequently justified in the name of victims. We know that our Laura would not want this broken, expensive, and violent practice sought in her name, nor do we want it in our name.
I understand that this sense of revenge is a very legitimate emotion, but it is not a legitimate basis for public policy. And I think we denigrate our own noble ideals when we use revenge and we use the public fisc for the purpose of killing our fellow human beings, when that really is not going to solve the problem. It's certainly not going to bring back the loved one that people have lost. And I just am amazed that we're still having this conversation in the 21st century, that we just haven't gotten smarter about really addressing the causes of crime instead of trying to treat the symptoms, and that's really what the death penalty represents to me.
My brother's killer hasn't been apprehended yet, and when I hear that cold case units like the one in Santa Clara County are being closed down for lack of funds, or when I hear that it takes 8 months to run forensic evidence in crime labs in Los Angeles County and that there aren't even any forensic labs in some counties, when I hear that, I'm more convinced than ever that the millions currently being spent on the death penalty need to be spent somewhere else. They need to be spent on services that get killers off the street and make us safe.
I'm not sorry for the things I've done, because I've lived my life the only way I knew how.
I just barely started shaving when I came to jail. My mind is still not developed. I mean, I still don't know a lot of stuff. Mostly I think about the past, you know. Not much of a future left for me to think about.
You know, a death penalty exists when I was arrested. All prior leading up to it, never thought about it. So, what is going to deter? You living on the streets, you living day for day. You trying to breathe. So, death penalty. If I came across in a newspaper, television program, it just escaped me. That was death penalty on all the streets out there. I mean, hey, education, I can give you education from one side of the street to the next side of the street, across town, downtown. But death penalty, hey, you see it every day. Where I grew up here.
Do you believe in an eye for an eye?
No. Everybody blind. No. But I believe in punishment.
My parents especially, they blame themselves a lot. I can see it in their eyes. A lot of times they look, when they come down and visit me every week, and they want to blame themselves for me being here. And I try to let them know that, you know, it's not their fault, that I made the decisions in my life that got me here.
I had the opportunity to take David Protess's investigative journalism class. And I don't know why I took the class. I took it because it sounded fun. And I ended up working on the case of Anthony Porter. Anthony had come within 50 hours of execution, exactly a week before we started class. And he received a stay at the last minute, but he didn't receive a stay because anyone thought he was innocent. He received a stay because his IQ had been tested at 51, and there were questions about whether he was competent to be executed. We went and we reenacted the crime, and we found out that the eyewitness who said he had seen Anthony Porter committing the crime couldn't have seen it at all. Then the eyewitness recanted. Then we tracked down the ex-wife of the person we thought was the real killer, and she told us on video that she had been there when her husband committed the crime. And a week later, her husband confessed to private investigator Paul Cialino on video, and Anthony was released on the state's motion 2 days later. And I can't really describe, I had no idea that the justice system worked like that before I started taking, I just didn't know.
The bomb site every single day after Julie's death. I was mentally ill and I was making myself physically ill. And here I was in all of this deep grief, all of this pain, the rage and the revenge I was carrying, and I went to asking myself the very question, what do I need, what does Bud Welch need to be able to move his life forward? Do I need trials to begin now? Do we need convictions? Do we need executions? What do we need for me to get my health back? And I asked myself that question many times over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and each time I would finally recognize that to execute either one was an act of rage and revenge. And rage and revenge is exactly why Julie and 167 others are dead. And I knew that someday I needed to go tell that man that I truly cared how he felt, and that I did not blame him or his family for what his son had done.
Peter asked Jesus, "How many times should I forgive someone who harms me? 7 times?" And Jesus answered, "No, Peter, not 7 times, but 70 times 7.
The right to life is inalienable. It cannot be given, and it cannot be taken away. No matter how terrible the crime, in a world full of uncertainty, human rights are a clearly drawn line, a line between what is right and what is wrong, the line between imprisonment and execution. Every individual facing the death penalty is, whatever they stand accused of, still a human being. However much we revile them, however much we are outraged by their actions, however much we want revenge, they are still human beings. They may well have killed and tortured. They've crossed the line. But do we really want to join them?